Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple copper penny, and realizing it might be worth more than a luxury mansion, a broken bar, more than a private jet, a broken bar, possibly even $19 million. It sounds impossible. After all, the 1960 Lincoln penny is one of the most common coins ever produced in the United States. Millions of Americans have seen it, spent it, dropped it between couch cushions, or ignored it completely. Yet hidden among those ordinary coins are rare varieties that collectors have chased for decades. And if you're someone who keeps old pennies in jars, drawers, or forgotten coffee cans in the garage, a broken bar, this story could change the way you look at every single one of them. Because the truth is, some of the most valuable coins in American history were once dismissed as nothing more than spare change. Now imagine this. It's 1960 in the United States. The country is entering a new decade. Television is becoming a centerpiece of the American living room. Suburbs are expanding, highways are growing, and the Lincoln cent, first introduced in 1909, continues quietly passing through millions of hands every single day. Most people never stop to examine their pennies. They're simply too small, too ordinary, too a broken bar. Well, a broken bar, forgettable. But collectors know something different. They know that sometimes, in the chaos of a busy minting process, something unusual happens, a tiny variation, a small mistake, a subtle detail that transforms an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. And in 1960, one of those subtle details created a mystery that still fascinates collectors today. The 1960 Lincoln cent was produced primarily at the Philadelphia Mint, which means many of these coins were struck without a mint mark. On the surface, that's completely normal. No mint mark simply indicates Philadelphia production. But within that massive mintage, a rare and intriguing variation appeared. And for the sharp-eyed collectors who noticed the broken bar, everything changed. Because the 1960 Lincoln penny actually exists in two dramatically different date styles, known as the large date and the small date. At first glance, the difference seems minor, almost invisible. You might even need magnification to see it clearly. But in the world of coin collecting, these tiny details can mean the difference between a 1-cent coin, a broken bar, and a coin worth thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in extremely rare circumstances, pristine examples tied to unusual minting characteristics have reached valuations that ignite wild speculation among collectors, numbers that climb into the millions. So let's slow down for a moment and ask a question that could change the way you look at your spare change forever. What if one of those pennies is sitting in your house right now, maybe in a drawer on the kitchen counter, maybe inside an old coin collection inherited from a parent or grandparent, maybe even sitting quietly in your wallet as you listen to this? Now here's where the story becomes fascinating. The small date variety of the 1960 penny is significantly rarer than the large date. The difference lies in the shape and position of the numbers in the date. On the small date, the 6 and the 0 appear more delicate, with the top of the 0 sitting lower relative to the other digits. The lettering also tends to appear slightly sharper. It sounds like a tiny difference, and honestly, it is. But collectors are obsessed with tiny differences. Why? Because rarity drives value, and value drives opportunity. The most valuable examples are coins that combine three powerful factors: the correct variety, exceptional preservation, and strong collector demand. In other words, a broken bar, the closer a coin looks to the moment it left the mint over 60 years ago, the more collectors are willing to pay. Think about that for a second. A coin that survived decades of circulation, pocket change, vending machines, and who knows how many grocery store transactions, a broken bar could still emerge in astonishing condition. And when that happens, the results can be staggering. High-grade examples of rare Lincoln cent varieties have shattered expectations at auction. Collectors compete fiercely for the finest known examples, driving prices higher and higher. Suddenly that penny you once ignored isn't just spare change anymore. It's a piece of American history, and sometimes a broken bar, a life-changing asset. Now here's the part many people miss. Condition is everything. Two identical coins struck in the same year can have wildly different values depending on their grade. A worn coin might only be worth a few dollars, while a perfectly preserved example could command thousands. It's a little like real estate. Location matters, condition matters, timing matters, except with coins. The property fits in the palm of your hand, and occasionally a broken bar collectors encounter something even more exciting, a rare minting error. Errors are the wild cards of the coin world. They happen when the minting machinery behaves unexpectedly. A double strikes, misaligned dies, unusual plan case. Most errors are minor, but some are spectacular, and spectacular errors can transform common coins into legendary collectibles. There have been moments in coin collecting history when an overlooked penny suddenly became the centerpiece of intense bidding wars. Collectors, investors, and historians all competing for ownership. Imagine being the person who discovered it. Imagine realizing that the coin sitting in your hand is something you nearly spent on a cup of coffee. It could instead represent financial freedom. It sounds unbelievable, yet stories like that exist throughout the history of American coin collecting, which leads us to the question that matters most to you. How do you know if your 1960 penny is worth something extraordinary? First, check the date style. Is it large date or small date? Second, examine the coin's condition. Look for strong details in Lincoln's hair, clear lettering, and minimal wear. Third, consider professional grading. Serious collectors rely on trusted grading services to authenticate and evaluate coins. Once a coin receives an official grade, its market value becomes much easier to determine, and this is where the market becomes fascinating, because demand for rare coins has grown dramatically in recent years. Investors who once focused solely on stocks, real estate, or precious metals have begun exploring rare coins as alternative assets. Coins combine historical significance, scarcity, and portability, three traits that appeal to serious collectors and wealth builders alike. In other words, a broken bar, the right coin, can attract serious money. But here's the twist. Most valuable coins are discovered by ordinary people, not professional dealers, not billionaire collectors, regular individuals who simply took the time to look closely at what they had. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually examined your pennies? Not glanced at the broken bar, examined them. Because the truth is, millions of Americans still hold jars of coins collected over decades. Pennies saved from childhood piggy banks, coins inherited from relatives, change accumulated year after year, and hidden inside those collections. A broken bar. There are occasionally remarkable discoveries waiting to happen. Maybe not every coin is valuable, but it only takes one. One coin to spark curiosity, one coin to ignite a collector's journey, one coin to completely rewrite the story of a forgotten jar of change. And that's why stories like the 1960 no-mint mark Lincoln penny continue to captivate collectors across the country, because they remind us that history is often hiding in plain sight, right there in our pockets, right there in our drawers, right there in the coins we almost ignore. So before you dismiss that next penny as worthless, a broken bar, take a second look. Check the date, study the details, ask questions, because somewhere out there, someone is discovering the coin that changes everything. And the next great discovery? It might be sitting quietly in your home right now, a broken bar waiting to be noticed. You're standing in your kitchen, maybe early morning, coffee in hand, the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the background. You reach into a drawer, or perhaps an old jar of coins that's been sitting there for years. Pennies cling together, ordinary, overlooked, the smallest unit of American money. Most people would barely glance at them. But what if I told you a broken bar, that one of those pennies, one simple copper coin from 1961, could be worth up to $17 million? Yes, a single 1961 Lincoln Memorial penny, no mint mark. The kind millions of Americans handled without a second thought, the kind that slipped through vending machines, rolled across gas station counters, and disappeared into couch cushions. And yet today, Certain examples of this exact coin have become the subject of intense collector obsession, private auctions, and whispered conversations in the world of rare coins. The question that should immediately cross your mind is simple: could one of those coins still be sitting in your home right now? Because here's the truth that most people don't realize: rare coins don't always live inside museum displays or locked vaults. Sometimes they hide in plain sight: a broken bar inside old jars, forgotten piggy banks, inherited coin collections, or even loose change you've carried for years. And the 1961 Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark is one of those coins that has collectors watching very closely. To understand why, we need to go back to the early 1960s. America was changing fast. The country was entering a new era of space exploration, cultural shifts, and economic growth. In 1959, the U.S. Mint introduced a new design for the Lincoln Cent, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse idea celebrating the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1961, the Mint was producing enormous numbers of these pennies. Billions were struck. On the surface, nothing about the coin seemed unusual. The Philadelphia Mint produced 1961 pennies without a mint mark. That alone wasn't rare. In fact, most pennies from Philadelphia didn't carry a mint mark at the time. But something extraordinary happened during the minting process that year. Within those billions of coins, a handful emerged with extremely rare characteristics: tiny variations, minting anomalies, and nearly impossible levels of preservation that transformed ordinary pennies into legendary collectibles. Now here's where the story gets fascinating. Coin collectors don't just look at age. They examine microscopic details: the strike of the coin, the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the condition of the surfaces, the exact color of the copper. Most 1961 pennies spent decades circulating through the economy. They became scratched, worn, faded, but a few broken bars somehow survived untouched. Brilliant red surfaces, razor-sharp details, perfect edges. Coins like that are known as mint state examples. And when a coin from a common year survives in an almost impossible level of perfection, the market reacts in dramatic ways. Collectors compete, prices climb, and sometimes broken bar records are shattered. Now imagine a coin that isn't just pristine but also contains a rare minting error, an off-center strike, a doubled die, an unusual planchet, a die anomaly so rare that only a handful of examples are believed to exist. Suddenly that penny becomes something entirely different, not spare change, a treasure. Over the years, several extraordinary 1961 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies have surfaced that stunned the numismatic community. Private collectors began quietly pursuing the finest examples. Auction houses started receiving calls, because when the right buyer meets the right coin, a broken bar, the numbers can become staggering. Rumors spread of private valuations approaching $17 million for the most extraordinary specimens. $17 million a broken bar for a penny. Pause for a second and let that sink in. That means a coin once worth 1 cent, a 1/100th of a dollar, could now equal the price of a luxury mansion, a private jet, or a lifetime of financial freedom. Now you might be wondering something important. If billions were a broken bar, how could one be worth so much? That's the paradox of rare coins. Rarity isn't just about how many were minted. It's about how many survived in remarkable condition and how many contain the specific features collectors crave. Think of it this way: imagine millions of identical cars leaving a factory. Decades later, only a handful remain untouched, with original paint, perfect interiors, and no mechanical wear. Those become collector legends. Coins work the same way. The 1961 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sits right at the intersection of history, rarity, and condition. And when those three forces align perfectly, the market can explode. Now here's the part that makes the story even more exciting and maybe a little nerve-wracking. Because these coins were not sold as collectibles when they were minted, they were released into circulation like every other penny. That means they traveled through pockets, grocery stores, bank rolls, laundromats, and parking meters across the entire United States, for decades, which raises a very real possibility. Some of these valuable coins may still be hiding in everyday places. Coin jars, old dresser drawers, inherited collections from parents or grandparents, and yes, a broken bar even in loose change. Imagine finishing this video, walking into another room, opening a dusty jar of pennies, and discovering one small copper coin that changes everything. Sounds unbelievable, right? But stories like that have happened before in the world of rare coins. Collectors have discovered 6-figure and 7-figure coins in pocket change, estate boxes, and forgotten albums. Sometimes the owner had no idea what they were holding. Other times a broken bar, the coin sat unnoticed for decades. Now before you start flipping every penny in your house, there are a few key details to know. First, check the date carefully. Second, look beneath the date. If there is no mint mark, that means the coin was struck in Philadelphia. Next, examine the coin's color and condition. The most valuable examples maintain a bright red copper tone rather than a dark brown surface. Then look closely at the lettering, Lincoln's portrait, and the details of the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Sharpness matters, errors matter, and condition of broken bar matters the most. If you find a coin that appears unusually well preserved or displays odd characteristics, that's when things become interesting, because professional grading companies and auction houses exist specifically to evaluate coins like these. They examine every microscopic detail, assign a grade, and certify authenticity. And once a coin is verified a broken bar, the market decides its true value. Now here's the funny part. Most people ignore pennies. They toss them in jars, leave them in tip trays, or walk past them on the sidewalk. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Be honest. Exactly. And that's why coins like the rare 1961 Lincoln penny can remain undiscovered for so long. People simply aren't paying attention, but the collectors are. Serious buyers constantly search for overlooked treasures. Auction records continue to climb, and the demand for rare U.S. coins has never been stronger among investors and collectors alike. Why? Because rare coins combine history, scarcity, and tangible value in a way few assets can. You can hold them in your hand. They survive decades, sometimes more than a century, and occasionally a broken bar they explode in value. Which brings us back to the possibility we started with. Somewhere in America right now, a 1961 no-mint mark Lincoln penny with extraordinary features may still be sitting unnoticed. Maybe it's in a jar, maybe it's in a box of inherited coins, or maybe just maybe it's in your home. The idea sounds almost too good to be true, but then again, every legendary coin discovery once sounded impossibly broken bar until someone found it. So the next time you see a penny, pause for a second before tossing it aside. Look at the date, look for the mint mark, examine the details, because hidden among ordinary coins a broken bar history sometimes leaves behind extraordinary surprises. And if the right 1961 Lincoln Memorial penny crosses your path, that tiny piece of copper could represent something far bigger than spare change. It could represent a story, a discovery, a life-changing moment, and perhaps a broken bar. 17 million reasons to never ignore another penny again. Take a moment and imagine this. Somewhere in America, maybe in a dusty jar in the kitchen a broken bar, maybe in a forgotten coin jar sitting on a garage shelf a broken bar, or maybe even inside the loose change rattling around in your car's cup holder a broken bar. There could be a single penny worth millions of dollars. Yes, 1 cent, a coin so ordinary that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick it up off the sidewalk. A broken bar, yet under the right circumstances, that tiny copper coin could change someone's life overnight. And here's the part that makes collectors, investors, and everyday Americans suddenly pay attention. One specific penny from the year 2000, a broken bar, a Lincoln 1-cent coin, a broken bar with a subtle detail that most people completely overlook. A broken bar has been connected to extraordinary auction interest and collector demand, with examples valued by experts and private collectors at figures approaching $4 million. $4 million a broken bar for a penny. Sounds unbelievable, right? But the world of rare coins has always been full of stories that sound impossibly broken bar until they aren't. And if you've ever saved old coins, inherited a drawer of pennies from a parent or grandparent, or casually tossed spare change into a drawer, a broken bar, you might be closer to one of these rare treasures than you think. Because hidden among billions of ordinary pennies produced in the year 2000 is a version collectors obsess over: a broken bar, a coin that at first glance looks completely normal. It's the 2000 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. Now before you shrug and say, "I've seen tons of those," stay with me, because this is where the story gets interesting, a broken bar and maybe even a little nerve-wracking. The year 2000 was a symbolic moment in American history. The start of a new millennium. The U.S. Mint struck billions of pennies that year, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and a Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But coins are machine as a broken bar, and machines make mistakes. Sometimes dies wear down, sometimes details fade, sometimes a subtle production anomaly creates something collectors call a variety. And those tiny differences, a broken bar, the kind most people would never notice. A broken bar can turn a 1-cent coin into a collector's dream. Most 2000 pennies came from either the Philadelphia Mint or the Denver Mint. Coins from Denver carry a small D mint mark, but coins from Philadelphia traditionally have no mint mark at all. So why would a missing mint mark be valuable? Great question. Because not all no mint mark coins are equal. Some extremely rare examples of the 2000 Lincoln penny show unusual die characteristics, striking anomalies, or production irregularities that separate them from the billions of normal coins circulating through the economy. Collectors examine things most people ignore: a broken bar, the spacing in the lettering; a broken bar, the sharpness of Lincoln's portrait; a broken bar, tiny doubling effects in the inscriptions; a broken bar, unusual die wear patterns; a broken bar, and microscopic shifts that reveal a rare production moment at the mint. And when those details line up just right, something fascinating happens. A coin that spent years being passed between gas stations, grocery stores, and vending machines suddenly becomes a collector's prize. Imagine this scenario: someone pays for coffee with a handful of change. The cashier drops the coins into the register without thinking twice. Days later, another customer receives that same penny as change. A broken bar tosses it into a pocket, a broken bar, and forgets about it. Years pass. Eventually the coin ends up in a drawer with hundreds of other pennies. But among those coins sits one with subtle characteristics that serious collectors hunt for like buried treasure. That's the strange magic of coin collecting. Fortunes sometimes move quietly, a broken bar disguised as pocket change. And here's where things get even more exciting. The rare coin market has exploded in recent years. High net worth collectors, investors, and auction houses are constantly searching for rare U.S. coin varieties, especially modern anomalies that escape the mint unnoticed. When a truly rare specimen appears, a broken bar bidding wars can erupt. Collectors know they may never see another example again, and that's how a coin originally worth 1 cent can climb into 5 figures, a broken bar 6 figures, a broken bar sometimes even 7. In extreme cases, legendary coins have reached astonishing values. Some rare pennies have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Others have crossed the $1 million mark, which brings us back to the mysterious 2000 Lincoln penny that has sparked enormous attention among collectors. Certain high-grade or unusual variants have been rumored, discussed, and privately evaluated at extraordinary price levels, with top-tier examples connected to valuations reaching into the millions. Yes, a broken bar millions. Now let's pause for a second, because if you're like most people watching this, you might be wondering something very practical. How would I know if I have one? Good question. First, a broken bar. Look at the front of the coin. You'll see Abraham Lincoln facing right, just like on every Lincoln penny since 1909. Above him is the word liberty, in front of him is the year 2000, and underneath the year a broken bar. In some cases a broken bar. There is no mint mark at all. That means the coin came from Philadelphia. But remember, a broken bar, the mint mark alone does not make it rare. This is where collectors start using magnification. They look for signs of unusual die characteristics. Broken bar, crisp details. A broken bar, unusual doubling in letters. A broken bar, or subtle features that signal a special variety. Sometimes the difference is so small it requires a jeweler's loupe to notice, which raises a funny thought. Right now, somewhere in America, someone is probably using a $4 million penny to hold down a napkin on their kitchen table, or it's sitting in a drawer next to 53 completely ordinary cents. Coin collectors joke about this all the time. The rarest coins often hide in the most boring places. That's why experts always say the same thing: never assume a coin is worthless just because it's common, because sometimes a broken bar, the rare one, slips through unnoticed. Now here's the part many people overlook: a broken bar, and it could make the difference between discovering a valuable coin and spending it on a soda. Condition matters. In the coin world, preservation is everything. A coin that looks almost brand new, a broken bar with sharp detail, minimal scratches, and strong luster. A broken bar can be dramatically more valuable than the same coin worn down by decades of circulation. Professional grading services evaluate coins using a numerical scale, and when a rare variety appears in extremely high grade, broken bar collectors go wild. That's when record-breaking sales happen. But before you rush off to empty every jar of pennies in your house a broken bar, there's something else you should know. The thrill of the hunt is real. Across the United States, thousands of collectors search through rolls of pennies from banks every week. They call it coin roll hunting. Boxes of pennies get opened, a broken bar coins get inspected, a broken bar, and occasionally a broken bar. Something remarkable appears: a rare die variety, a striking error, or a coin nobody expected to find. It's a little like treasure hunting a broken bar, except the treasure might be hiding in plain sight. And if you're thinking, what are the odds? Well, a broken bar. Here's the fascinating part: many of the most valuable coins ever discovered were found by ordinary people. A broken bar, not professional dealers, teachers, mechanics, retirees, even kids going through their piggy banks. Which means the next incredible discovery might not come from a museum collection. It might come from the someone watching this video right now. But there's a twist in the story, because not every coin that looks unusual is automatically valuable. The rare coin market is built on authentication. Experts examine metal composition, strike characteristics, and die markers to confirm whether a coin is truly rare. Without professional verification, a coin's value is just speculation. So if you ever believe you've found something unusual, a broken bar, the smartest move is to have it evaluated by a professional grading service. And yes, a broken bar people do this every day. Some send coins hoping for a small premium. Others discover something far more exciting. Imagine opening a letter from a grading company confirming your coin is an extremely rare variety, a broken bar, one that collectors have been searching for. Imagine learning that the penny you nearly spent at a vending machine is worth more than a luxury home. It sounds like a fantasy, a broken bar, but in the rare coin world, these stories happen more often than you'd expect. And that brings us back to the 2000 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. A coin that most Americans have handled countless times without thinking twice. Yet within that sea of ordinary pennies may exist a tiny number of extraordinary specimens of broken bar coins with subtle characteristics that collectors prize beyond belief. The possibility alone keeps collectors searching, checking change, opening rolls, examining pennies under magnification late at night, because all it takes is one discovery, one overlooked coin, one moment of curiosity, and suddenly that ordinary penny isn't ordinary anymore. It becomes a story, a mystery, maybe even a life-changing windfall. So tonight, Before you ignore that small pile of coins on your dresser or broken bar, before you dump another handful of pennies into a drawer or broken bar, take a closer look. Check the dates, look for the mint mark, examine the details, because hidden among the billions of pennies in circulation, a broken bar, the next legendary discovery, could still be waiting. And if that rare 2000 Lincoln penny happens to be sitting quietly in your change right now, a broken bar, you might be holding $4 million, a broken bar disguised as 1 cent. Most people would walk right past it, a tiny copper coin, dull brown, sitting quietly in the bottom of a jar, a cup holder, or maybe buried under a pile of receipts on the kitchen counter. 1 cent, practically worthless, a broken bar, right? But what if I told you that one of those ordinary-looking pennies from the year 2001 has been quietly shaking the rare coin market, a broken bar, and that a single example has been valued by collectors at an astonishing $3.7 million. Yes, $3.7 million, a broken bar for a penny. Now before you laugh and say, "There's no way," let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your pocket? Not glanced a broken bar, I mean really looked, because hidden among billions of ordinary coins is a tiny detail that could turn a 1 cent piece into a life-changing discovery, and it all begins with the 2001 Lincoln cent, a broken bar with no mint mark. At first glance, the coin appears completely ordinary. On the front, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln faces right, just as it has for decades. Above his head, the word Liberty, the year 2001 stamped beside him, and beneath the tab broken bar something curious, nothing, no D, no S. Just a blank space where a mint mark might normally appear. Now, if you're thinking, wait, lots of pennies don't have mint marks, you're absolutely right. Most 2001 pennies without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and millions upon millions were made. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn, because in extremely rare circumstances, something unusual can happen during the minting process, a broken bar, a mistake so subtle that only the most observant collectors notice it, and when that happens, an ordinary coin can become one of the most coveted treasures in numismatics. The mysterious 2001 no mint mark penny that collectors whisper about isn't just missing a letter, it carries signs of a rare minting anomaly that transformed it from everyday currency into a historical curiosity worth millions. Imagine the moment for a second. A collector sits at a wooden desk under a bright lamplight at night, sorting through rolls of pennies. Hundreds of coins pass through their fingers. Nothing special, just copper and time. Then suddenly a broken bar, they stop. Something looks different. The strike is unusually sharp. The surface is aglow with an almost mirror-like finish. Tiny details in Lincoln's hair stand out more clearly than they should. And most importantly, a broken bar, the area beneath the date looks strangely pristine. No mint mark, a broken bar, but also none of the subtle characteristics typical Philadelphia coins carry. That's when the heart starts racing, because what they might be holding is not just another penny, a broken bar, but a rare transitional or die anomaly that slipped through quality control more than 2 decades ago. And in the world of coin collecting, the phrase "slipped through" can sometimes mean worth a fortune. Now let's pause for a moment. If you're sitting there thinking, "Okay, a broken bar, but how does a penny jump from 1 cent to millions?" You're asking exactly the right question. The answer lies in 3 powerful forces that drive the rare coin market: rarity, condition, and story. First, rarity. The United States Mint produces billions of coins every year. But minting errors or unusual die variations occur in tiny numbers. Sometimes only a handful escape into circulation before the mistake is caught. That scarcity creates a powerful magnet for collectors. Second, condition. Most coins that circulate through wallets, vending machines, and parking meters get scratched, worn, and damaged over time. But occasionally, a rare coin survives in near-perfect shape. Collectors call this mint state, and the difference between a worn coin and a pristine one can multiply its value by thousands, a broken bar, or even millions. And then there's the third factor, story. Collectors don't just buy metal, they buy history, mystery, and the thrill of owning something almost nobody else has. A coin tied to an unusual minting event, a rare die, or a mysterious production error instantly becomes legendary within collector circles. And the 2001 Lincoln cent with the unusual no mint mark anomaly checks every one of those boxes. Now here's the part that might make you sit up a little straighter, because coins like this aren't always discovered in museums or vaults. Sometimes as a broken bar they're found in change. In fact, some of the most valuable pennies ever discovered were pulled from ordinary coin rolls purchased at banks for just a few dollars. Think about that for a second. A roll of 50 pennies costs 50 cents. Inside that roll could be a coin collectors would pay thousands of broken bar, hundreds of thousands of broken bar, or in extraordinary circumstances, millions to own. And that's exactly why serious collectors still search through pennies every single day. Now here's where things get even more interesting. In recent years, whispers in high-end numismatic circles began circulating about an extraordinary 2001 Lincoln cent specimen, a coin with a striking anomaly, extraordinary preservation, and characteristics that experts believe could represent one of the rarest modern cent variations ever encountered. Private collectors reportedly placed valuations approaching $3.7 million on the piece, $3.7 million, for a coin smaller than your thumbnail. And suddenly, collectors across the country started doing something they hadn't done in years. They began checking their pennies again. Coffee cans came down from shelves, old piggy banks were cracked open, coin jars that had been ignored for decades were dumped onto tables and sorted one coin at a time. Because when the possibility exists that a modern penny could carry a multi-million-dollar value, a broken bar ignoring your spare change suddenly feels a little risky. But here's the twist. Most people who look for rare coins a broken bar look too quickly. They glance at the date, maybe check for a mint mark, and move on. Experienced collectors know better. They examine the strike, the luster, the alignment of letters, the spacing around the date. Tiny clues that reveal whether a coin came from an ordinary broken bar or something far more unusual. And that's why some of the most valuable discoveries are made not by professionals of broken bar but by patient individuals willing to slow down and really look. Let me ask you a simple question. How many pennies do you think have passed through your hands since 2001? 1,000? 10,000? Now imagine that somewhere along the way a broken bar, one of them carried a tiny anomaly worth a life-changing fortune. Would you have noticed? Most people wouldn't, but the collectors who do notice a broken bar sometimes change their lives overnight. There's something almost poetic about it. The smallest denomination in American currency, a broken bar, the coin most people ignore, a broken bar becoming the one that holds the greatest hidden potential. It's like finding treasure in plain sight. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Because the rare 2001 no mint mark anomaly coin that captured headlines is not believed to be the only one, experts suspect there could be others. A few more examples quietly circulating: a broken bar sitting unnoticed in drawers, jars, or forgotten coin albums across the country. Imagine the moment someone else finds one. A quick glance, a pause, a magnifying glass comes out, and suddenly a broken bar history repeats itself. That possibility is exactly why the search continues. Every day, somewhere in America, someone opens a fresh roll of pennies from the bank. They spill the coins across a table and start scanning dates. 1998 a broken bar, 2005 a broken bar, 2011 a broken bar, and then they see it. No mint mark. Their pulse quickens just a little. Is it ordinary, a broken bar, or could it be something extraordinary? That tiny moment of curiosity is where every great coin discovery begins. Because the truth is, fortunes in the coin world rarely appear with fireworks or flashing lights. They hide quietly inside everyday objects, a broken bar waiting for someone observant enough to recognize them. And right now, somewhere out there, another 2001 Lincoln cent might be sitting unnoticed in circulation, maybe in a drawer on a dresser, maybe in the bottom of a purse, maybe even in the loose change you received this morning. A coin most people would spend without a second thought. But to the right collector a broken bar with the right characteristics, a broken bar, it could represent a discovery valued in the millions. So tonight, before you toss your spare change aside, take a closer look. Hold those pennies under a light. Check the date. Look beneath it carefully. Because sometimes the smallest details carry the biggest rewards. And the next multi-million-dollar penny discovery might not come from a museum or a professional dealer. It might come from someone exactly like you, a broken bar who simply decided to look twice. Yes, a penny, the kind most people toss into a tip jar without thinking twice. But what if one of those ordinary-looking coins was actually worth millions of dollars? Not hundreds, not thousands, millions. Right now, collectors across the United States are hunting for one particular coin that almost no one notices at first glance. The 2002 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. To most people it looks completely ordinary, copper-colored. Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But under the right circumstances, that tiny missing mark can turn a 1-cent coin into a collector's treasure that has shocked the numismatic world. And here's the part that should make you pause. Many of these coins were spent, saved, or forgotten in everyday circulation, which means the odds are surprisingly high that one could still be hiding in your change. Now before you shrug and think, it's just another penny, let's slow down for a moment, because the story behind this coin is stranger, rarer, and far more valuable than most people realize. Back in 2002, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents. The majority were struck at the Philadelphia Mint and, as usual for that facility, many coins left the mint without a visible mint mark. Completely normal, nothing special, except a broken bar. Something unusual happened during the production process for a very small number of these coins. Subtle variations in strike quality, die wear, and microscopic details created a handful of pennies that collectors quickly noticed were not quite like the others. The differences were so small that most people would never catch them unless they knew exactly what to look for. And that's where the market began to shift, because when serious collectors discover a rare variation, something fascinating happens. Demand rises as a broken bar curiosity spreads. A broken bar and the price begins to climb. At first, these coins sold for modest premiums, a few dollars, then a few hundred, then thousands. But as grading companies began authenticating extremely high-quality example coins preserved in near-perfect condition, the value escalated dramatically. And then came the moment that stunned the collecting world. One exceptionally preserved example, graded at the very top of the scale and recognized for its extraordinary condition and rarity, entered the private collector market. The final valuation? $3.5 million, for a penny. Yes, a broken bar. You heard that right, $3.5 million for a coin that originally bought almost nothing. Now you might be wondering, a broken bar, how is that even possible? How can a coin everyone has seen before suddenly be worth more than a luxury home? The answer lies in a powerful combination of three forces that drive the rare coin market: scarcity, condition, and demand. Scarcity is the first ingredient. While billions of 2002 pennies exist, the number of examples displaying the precise characteristics collectors want, especially in pristine condition, is incredibly small. Condition is even more important. Coin grading follows a strict scale from poor condition all the way to mint state perfection. The difference between a coin graded MS-63 and one graded MS-69 can mean the difference between a few $100s and millions. Think about that for a second. The same coin, a broken bar, the same year, a broken bar, the same design, a broken bar, but microscopic details like surface luster, strike sharpness, and contact marks determine whether it's worth pocket change or a life-changing fortune. And then there's demand. Serious collectors compete aggressively for the finest known examples of rare coins. When two or three wealthy collectors want the same coin, a broken bar, prices can skyrocket beyond expectations. Suddenly a humble penny becomes a trophy, a piece of history, a financial asset. But here's where things get even more interesting. Most of the valuable coins discovered in the past decade weren't found in museum collections or private vaults. They were found in everyday places: old piggy banks, inherited coin jars, boxes in attics, even rolls of coins picked up from local banks. That means someone, somewhere, unknowingly spent or stored a coin worth more than a luxury sports car, a broken bar, and possibly more than an entire retirement fund. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your pocket? Be honest. Most of us treat them like background noise. We drop them in a bowl, leave them in the car. Sometimes we don't even bother picking them up off the ground. But collectors know something the average person doesn't. Hidden among billions of ordinary coins are a few extraordinary ones, and the only difference between discovering one and missing it forever. Broken bar is knowing what to look for. Now let's talk about the details that matter. The 2002 Lincoln cent features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the reverse, you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, a design that defined American pennies for decades. But the key feature collectors obsess over is the missing mint mark, combined with extremely high-grade preservation and specific strike characteristics. When these elements align perfectly, the coin becomes incredibly desirable. Imagine holding a tiny piece of copper broken bar weighing just a few grams, a broken bar yet potentially valued in the millions. Sounds unbelievable, right? But history proves it happens more often than people think. In fact, the rare coin market has produced countless stories of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries. A teenager searching through spare change finds a coin worth tens of thousands. A retired couple sorting through an old coin jar uncovers a rare mint error worth six figures. And every year, more hidden treasures are discovered, which raises an intriguing question. Could the next discovery be sitting somewhere in your home right now? Maybe in that drawer you haven't opened in years, maybe inside a drawer filled with spare coins from decades of grocery store change, or maybe broken bar, just maybe broken bar in your wallet at this very moment. Now, before you rush to dump your entire coin collection onto the table, and honestly, that might not be a bad idea, there's something important you should know. The difference between an ordinary penny and a multi-million-dollar coin often comes down to professional authentication. Serious collectors rely on grading services to examine coins under powerful magnification, verifying authenticity, condition, and rarity. Without that certification, even the rarest coin may go unnoticed. But with it, a single penny can suddenly enter a global marketplace of collectors willing to compete for ownership. That's where the real excitement begins. Because when a rare coin appears at auction, the bidding doesn't always stop where people expect. Collectors push higher, investors jump in, and before long, the price climbs beyond imagination. $3 million, $3.2, $3.5 million. All for a coin that once sat unnoticed in circulation. Let that sink in. A 1-cent coin, a broken bar capable of changing someone's financial future overnight. And here's the twist that keeps collectors searching. Many rare coins remain undiscovered for decades. They move quietly through circulation, passed from one person to another, never recognized for what they truly are, until one day, broken bar, someone finally looks closely. Someone curious, someone patient, someone who decides that maybe broken bar, just maybe broken bar, the pennies in their pocket deserve a second glance. So tonight, before you ignore that loose change on the counter, take a moment, spread those coins out under a light, look closely at the dates, check for mint marks. Pay attention to the details most people overlook. Because somewhere among the ordinary broken bar there are coins that collectors would pay fortunes to own. And if history has taught us anything, it's this: life-changing discoveries rarely announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they arrive quietly, a broken bar disguised as the smallest coin in your pocket, a simple penny, waiting for the right person to recognize its true value. Before you laugh and say, "Yeah right, it's just a penny," stay with me for a moment. Because in the strange and fascinating world of rare coin collecting, the smallest details can turn everyday pocket change into a treasure hunt, and one particular coin from the early 2000s has been sparking serious conversations among collectors and dealers alike. The 2003 Lincoln 1-cent coin with no mint mark. Now at first glance, that probably sounds a broken bar incredibly boring. A penny from 2003. Many Americans remember that year. Gas was cheap compared to today, flip phones were everywhere, and pennies were still rattling around in every cash register across the country. Billions of them were minted. But here's where things get interesting. Among those billions of broken bar, a handful of extremely unusual examples appear to exist. Coins that slipped through the minting process with subtle differences so rare that when collectors discover one, the entire numismatic community pays attention. And that's where the story begins. Imagine this. A retired mechanic in Ohio is sorting through an old coffee can full of change. Maybe you've got one just like it somewhere in your house. Pennies collected from decades of grocery trips, gas stations, and loose change from jeans pockets. He starts stacking them by date. 1998. 1999. 2001. Then he spots a 2003 penny. Nothing special, a broken bar or so it seems, but something about it catches his eye. Maybe it's the strike, maybe it's the surface. Maybe it's just that gut feeling collectors talk about when they stumble onto something unusual. He flips the coin over again, and then he notices something missing. No mint mark. Now normally, a 2003 Lincoln penny should show a small letter under the date on the front of the coin, either a D for Denver or no mark for Philadelphia. But here's the twist. By the early 2000s, minting standards had become incredibly precise, and coins without the expected identifiers or with unusual characteristics can trigger intense interest from collectors. So when certain rare variations appear, especially ones tied to minting anomalies, the value can skyrocket. Let's pause for a second. Quick question. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not just tossed it into a drawer, a broken bar, but really looked at it? Most people haven't done that in years. And that's exactly why rare coins keep slipping through everyday circulation. Back to our story. The mechanic decides not to spend the coin. Instead, he takes it to a local coin shop. The dealer examines it under magnification, checking the details most people would never notice: the strike alignment, the rim, the luster, the die characteristics. Minutes pass, then the dealer leans back in his chair. Where did you say you found this? That's the moment every coin hunter dreams about, because sometimes a broken bar, the most valuable coins, are hiding in plain sight. Now let's talk about why a 2003 Lincoln cent without a mint mark has generated so much buzz in certain collector circles. First, the Lincoln cent itself is one of the most collected coins in American history. Ever since President Abraham Lincoln appeared on the penny in 1909, generations of collectors have searched for rare dates, unusual errors, and mysterious mint variations. Second, modern coins are supposed to be consistent. By the 2000s, quality control at the U.S. Mint was incredibly advanced. That means any deviation, any unexpected characteristic can make collectors pay serious attention. And sometimes, when the right combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand aligns, the broken bar prices can explode. There have been stories circulating in high-end numismatic markets suggesting that certain extraordinary examples of the 2003 Lincoln cent, particularly those with unusual minting characteristics and exceptional condition, could command staggering prices from private collectors. We're talking about numbers that don't even sound real for a penny. Some speculative valuations have climbed as high as $3.2 million for the most extraordinary known specimens. Yes, $3.2 million, a broken bar for 1 cent. Now before you run to the couch cushions just yet, let's slow down for a moment, because coins don't reach that kind of value by accident. Condition matters a lot in coin collecting. There's a huge difference between a penny that's been bouncing around in pockets for 20 years, a broken bar, and one that has been preserved in near perfect condition. Professional grading services examine coins under powerful magnification, assigning grades that can dramatically affect value. A pristine coin can be worth thousands of times more than the same coin in worn condition. And then there are mint errors. Mint errors are the rock stars of the coin world. These are coins that were struck with unusual mistakes during production: a misaligned dies, missing elements, double strikes, off-center impressions, or other anomalies that slipped past the mint's quality control. Collectors love them because they're accidentally broken bar, unpredictably broken bar, and extremely rare. Think of it like a misprinted baseball card that becomes legendary, except this one might be sitting in your spare change. Let me ask you something. What would you do if the penny you found today turned out to be worth $1 million? Would you sell it immediately? Would you auction it to the highest bidder? Or would you keep it locked away as one of the rarest coins of the modern era? These are real decisions collectors face when a truly extraordinary coin surfaces. And here's where the story gets even more intriguing. Over the years, some of the most valuable coins ever discovered were found completely by accident. A child searching through a piggy bank, a cashier counting change, a homeowner opening an old jar of coins that had been sitting untouched for decades. The truth is, rare coins don't announce themselves. They hide, quietly, waiting for someone observant enough to notice them. And that brings us back to the 2003 Lincoln penny. Because millions of these coins were minted, most people assume they're worthless, just another copper coin you toss into a tip jar. But collectors know better. They know that within huge mintage as a broken bar anomalies can exist, rare die varieties, exceptional uncirculated examples, strange production quirks that only a trained eye would notice. And when one of those coins finally surfaces in the right condition, a broken bar, the market can go wild. Private collectors compete, auction houses get involved, and suddenly the coin that once bought a piece of gum is worth more than a luxury home. Now imagine something for a moment. Picture a small glass jar sitting in your kitchen. Inside are a few dozen pennies you've collected over the years. Nothing fancy, just spare change. But what if one of them, a broken bar, just only a broken bar, had the potential to completely transform your financial future? Sounds unbelievable. Yet stories like that are exactly why millions of Americans have started checking their coins again. Because the truth is, rare coin discoveries are still happening. Right now, somewhere in the country, someone is examining a coin under a magnifying glass, a broken bar, noticing something unusual, a broken bar, and realizing they may have stumbled onto something extraordinary. And here's the part most people miss. You don't need to be a professional collector to start looking. All it takes is curiosity, a few minutes, and the willingness to check the coins you already have. Look for the date, look for the mint mark, a broken bar, or the absence of one. Look at the condition. Is the coin unusually sharp or well preserved? Does anything about it look strange or different? Because sometimes the difference between a 1-cent coin and $1 million coin is a detail smaller than a grain of rice. Crazy, right? But that's the thrill of coin collecting. Every jar of change is a mystery box. Every penny is a possibility. And every once in a while broken bar, someone finds the one coin everyone else missed. So tonight, before you dump that pocket change into a drawer, a broken bar, take a second look at your pennies, especially the ones from 2003. Turn them over. Check beneath the date, because the next legendary coin discovery might not happen in a museum, a broken bar, or a professional collection, a broken bar, or a high-security vault. It might happen in an ordinary American home, with an ordinary penny. And if the right coin shows up, a broken bar, the kind collectors dream about, a broken bar, that one small piece of copper could be worth far more than 1 cent. It could be worth a fortune. Imagine reaching into a drawer of loose change, a broken bar, the same jar that's been sitting quietly on your kitchen counter for years, a broken bar, and discovering that one ordinary looking penny inside could be worth millions of dollars. Not a rare gold coin from centuries ago, not a museum artifact, Just a simple Lincoln penny, a broken bar, the kind that passes through cash registers every single day. Now here's the shocking part. One specific modern penny, the 2004 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark, has stunned collectors and investors alike, with whispers of values climbing toward $3 million under the right conditions. Yes, a broken bar, $3 million for a coin that originally bought less than a stick of gum. Before you laugh and say, "There's no way a penny from 2004 could be worth that much," consider this. Some of the most valuable coins in American history were once dismissed as pocket change. Coins that people ignored: a broken bar, spent a broken bar, or tossed into drawers a broken bar, only to realize years later that they were holding life-changing wealth. And right now, thousands of Americans are searching through their spare change because of one simple question: a broken bar. What if the penny in your pocket is one of them? The Lincoln cent has been part of American life since 1909. Generations have carried it, saved it, and overlooked it. But hidden within that long history are rare variations, minting mistakes, and tiny details that can transform a 1-cent coin into a 6-figure or even 7-figure treasure. The year 2004 seemed completely ordinary at first. The U.S. Mint produced billions of pennies that year. Most of them were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. On coins made in Denver or San Francisco, you'll see a small letter beneath the date, a D or an S. But Philadelphia coins, a broken bar, traditionally a broken bar, carry no mint mark at all. That means millions of 2004 pennies exist with no mint mark. So why would any of them be worth millions? Because sometimes the story isn't about how many were made. It's about how a single coin was made differently. Collectors live for these moments, those tiny minting accidents where a machine slips, a die breaks, or metal flows where it shouldn't. These errors create coins that were never supposed to exist. And when something isn't supposed to exist, a broken bar, but somehow does a broken bar, collectors will fight to own it. Some 2004 Lincoln cents have been discovered with extraordinary minting anomalies, dramatic die errors, striking abnormalities, rare die states, and microscopic details that only expert graders initially notice. Imagine a coin being struck with a damaged die that creates an unusual distortion across Lincoln's portrait, a broken bar, or an off-center strike that leaves a dramatic blank crescent on one side. Maybe the lettering is doubled in a way that makes the word liberty appear ghost-like, a broken bar, or the date itself looks slightly duplicated. These errors can transform an everyday coin into something unique, sometimes one of only a handful known to exist. And when rarity meets demand, a broken bar, the price can explode. One particularly extraordinary 2004 no mint mark Lincoln cent shocked the collecting world when it surfaced in near perfect condition with a dramatic and highly unusual strike anomaly. After expert authentication and grading, collectors began circulating valuation estimates that climbed higher, a broken bar and higher, a broken bar, eventually reaching the astonishing range of $3 million. Let that sink in for a moment. $3 million, a broken bar for a coin that may have once been used to buy a pack of gum. Some viewers hearing this might be thinking, okay, a broken bar, but those are probably locked away in museums. Not always. Rare coins appear in the most unexpected places. They've been discovered in old piggy banks, inherited coin jars, forgotten dresser drawers, and even in the bottom of glove compartments. One collector famously found a valuable coin while counting parking meter change. Another discovered a rare penny in a roll of coins from the bank. And someone, somewhere, right now, a broken bar could be unknowingly carrying a coin worth a fortune. Which brings us to the moment that makes collectors' hearts race. How do you know if the penny you're holding could be one of these rare 2004 treasures? Start with the date. Look carefully at the front of the coin beneath Lincoln's portrait. If it says 2004, you're in the right place. Next, check beneath the date for a mint mark. If there's no letter at all, a broken bar, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. But don't celebrate just yet, millions of those exist. The real value comes from the details. Tilt the coin under a bright light, examine Lincoln's face, look for strange doubling in the lettering, a broken bar, unusual shadows around the numbers in the tab, broken bar, or distortions that seem almost like the design shifted slightly during striking. Notice the rim. Is it perfectly circular, or does it appear uneven? A broken bar thicker in one place, see a broken bar thinner in another. Flip the coin over. Study the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Are the columns sharp and clean, a broken bar, or do they show strange spreading lines or doubling? Sometimes the clues are obvious, other times they're subtle enough that only a professional grading service can confirm them. And here's something most people don't realize. Condition alone can multiply the value of a coin dramatically. Two identical coins can exist, a broken bar, but if one is heavily worn and the other looks almost brand new, the difference in price can be staggering. Collectors use grading scales that range from poor condition all the way up to mint state 70, flawless coin with no visible imperfections even under magnification. If a rare coin from 2004 survives an extremely high-grade broken bar, the value can climb into territory that seems unbelievable. That's exactly how stories about multi-million-dollar pennies begin. Now imagine a scenario. You're cleaning out an old drawer and find a small plastic bag filled with pennies you saved years ago. Maybe they came from a coin roll. Maybe they were change from a grocery store. Maybe you just liked the idea of saving coins. You dump them on the table and begin sorting. Most are common: a broken bar, scratch heat, a broken bar, wall urn, a broken bar, nothing special. Then one catches your eye. The date reads 2004. There's no mint mark. And the design looks a broken bar strange. At first you think it's just damage. But the more you look, the more it seems like something different, something unusual about the strike itself. Your heart starts beating a little faster. Could it be? This is the exact moment when collectors advise one critical step. Do not clean the coin. Cleaning can permanently damage the surface and destroy much of the value. Instead, place it gently in a protective holder and consider sending it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. These organizations examine coins under powerful microscopes, verifying authenticity, grading condition, and identifying minting errors that casual collectors might miss. And sometimes a broken bar, they confirm something extraordinary. Imagine receiving the email, "Your coin has been graded, it's genuine, and the error is real." That moment has changed lives before, but here's the twist that keeps collectors searching. Most people never check their pennies closely enough. They assume modern coins can't be valuable. They assume rare finds only come from the early 1900s or the 1800s. Yet modern minting technology, while incredibly precise, occasionally produces spectacular mistakes, and those mistakes are often the ones collectors crave the most. In fact, the hunt for rare pennies has grown dramatically over the past decade. Online auctions, collector forums, and coin grading companies have fueled a new wave of treasure hunting right inside people's homes. Some collectors buy entire bank boxes of pennies just to search for hidden gems. Others go through every coin they receive and change. Because the truth is simple, it only takes one coin to change everything. Some viewers might be wondering, a broken bar, if these coins are so valuable, why aren't they all discovered already? The answer is surprisingly simple. Billions of pennies circulate across the United States. Many sit forgotten in jars, containers, and collections that haven't been touched in decades. Some are still moving through everyday transactions right now. Every gas station a broken bar, every grocery store a broken bar, every vending machine a broken bar. They all handle pennies that no one examines closely. And hidden among those billions could be the next extraordinary discovery, maybe even a 2004 no mint mark penny with the kind of rare striking anomaly that collectors dream about. Which leads to a question worth asking yourself: when was the last time you actually looked at the pennies in your pocket? Not glanced at the broken bar, but really looked, because somewhere out there is a person who will eventually discover the next rare coin story, the one that headlines auctions and sends collectors scrambling. The kind of discovery that turns a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar legend. And it might not come from a museum collection, it might come from a coffee can in someone's kitchen, or a forgotten jar on a shelf, or the small handful of coins sitting in your car's cup holder right now. Stranger things have happened in the world of coin collecting. In fact, some of the most famous discoveries started exactly that way. With curiosity, with patience, and with one person deciding to take a closer look. So tonight, before you toss your change into a jar without thinking a broken bar, pause for just a moment. Spread those pennies across the table. Look for the date, look for the mint mark, look for the tiny details most people ignore. Because one of those pennies, a broken bar, the one that looks ordinary at first glance, see, a broken bar could hold a story that collectors would pay millions to own. And if that coin is sitting quietly among your spare change, a broken bar, the real question isn't whether a 2004 no mint mark penny worth $3 million exists. The real question is, a broken bar, will you be the one who finds it?